And it is the adverse weather like the one we're seeing in Kenya that's pushing African leaders to seek an increase in International Development Association or IDA funding to $120 billion for this year to address development challenges and climate change. Now, they've highlighted the continent's need for sustainable growth and are urging global support for concessional financing. Let's take a closer look. Now, in Nairobi at the World Bank Summit, African leaders have advocated for a boost in funding from $93 to $120 billion in 2024, aiming to enhance development in 39 nations. Kenyan President William Ruto has underscored the continent's need for sustainable growth, urging increased capital investment and a revamp of the international financial system to address mounting debt and funding gaps in crucial sectors. Now, African policymakers have emphasized the importance of concessional financing to tackle pressing challenges. This echoes the G20's recommendation to raise IDA's financing capacity to $279 billion by 2030, highlighting the urgency for international solidarity. Let's get more on this now with Hannah Ryder in London. She's the CEO at Development Reimagined. It's an African-led, African-owned international development consultancy. Hannah, it's good to have you on TRT World. So how do African leaders plan to ensure that the increased funding is effectively utilized to address both developmental challenges and climate change across the continent?
Well, the example that has just been shown of the slums and the floods in Mathare are a very good example. In fact, there's a serious need for more finance on a massive scale. These kinds of floods, droughts in many countries are the climate change adaptation challenges that countries are facing. They link with development because in most places, these are the most poorest people who are affected. And on the other hand, we also have significant infrastructure that we still need to build. In a country like Kenya, the government, we estimate that the government ideally should be spending over 20 billion a year in order to deliver the basic level of infrastructure. That can't just come from domestic taxation. There's not enough tax raised in the country, so we have to look for external finance. So it's not a case of how do we effectively use it. We will use that money very easily and very quickly. The challenge is that there's just not enough money in the international system, in the international financial system. Organizations like the World Bank, even 120 billion is really not enough.
Is there anything then that African countries and leaders or even civil society can do within their own countries to try and raise their money or to do things within their own sectors, specifically education, healthcare, infrastructure, without then having to look to the IMF or the World Bank or other organizations internationally?
Most African governments do their very best to try to raise finance domestically. They are working on getting people registered into tax systems, businesses registered. At the same time, they're also trying to attract foreign direct investment, which in some cases can lead to extra taxes. They're doing a great deal. But as I said, their economies at this point are too small to be able to raise enough. So they have to look to the international system. And what they need to look for the international system for is the cheapest finance available. That's why IDA is so important, because it is one of the cheapest means of borrowing internationally. Whether it is the cheapest that it can be is another question, but it is at the moment the cheapest one. And that's why many African countries value it. That's why many African countries go to it.
And hopefully those African countries will be able to get the money that they need so much. Hannah Ryder in London, good to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.